Today's video features a talk by Isabelle Verrat-Masson, Research Director at Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique.
CNRS, man. Huh, no? Not here?
No. The CNRS is the National Center for Scientific Research, a public institution dedicated to knowledge. Oh, a French pride filled with intellectuals at the forefront of their fields of expertise. I'm a point expert at Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique.
Ouch, that stings.
That doesn't sting. Ouch, ouch, ouch. We still generally expect to see the scientific methods, sudden insights, and reality broken down for analysis. Precise! Well, in this case, no, that's not it.
These young people doing urban rodeos aren't actually thugs.
Okay, well, let's start by looking at the definition of thug. An unscrupulous individual who doesn't respect the law, and urban rodeos are forbidden. Yeah, that fits. Anyway, not wearing a helmet is also forbidden. Let's consider another definition. A boy who hangs around the streets. Yeah, that's it. More or less delinquent, that's what we are. Street kid, badly behaved, who acts out, who has bad manners. Maybe she thinks it's not a strong enough word?
They're young people who, interestingly, are bored by the idea of COVID.
Yes, they're bored, but that's no excuse to endanger others or yourself. Except for those who are weak-minded, easily influenced, or lack perspective and imagination. Which is silly, since boredom often fuels imagination.
Who feel completely focused. You know, it's West Side Story.
Huh? Wait, what's the connection with boredom? And the rodeos? No, because West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet set in the 1950s in the United States. A love story set amid racism. There's nothing in common.
It's West Side Story, so we join gangs.
Ah, so there are rival gangs in West Side Story, is that it? She could have chosen the famous Five or DuckTales.
Or the Gaza Strip Gang.
No, not that.
We do silly things, etc.
If I understand correctly, we shouldn't call guys who do dangerous, disrespectful, and illegal urban rodeos thugs. No, we shouldn't. However, killing each other, as in his analogy, is just foolish. She knows how to use her vocabulary wisely.
Me, I set people's houses on fire while they're sleeping.
Oh, what nonsense!
We push elderly people onto subway tracks.
Oh no, such childishness.
At night, we go out with Dad's SUV with a bull bar to run over crack-addicted migrants.
Oh wow, what nonsense.
We laugh about it.
No surprise, he's one of the world's most clueless with analogies. For the knife murder in Crépole, she actually came out with that.
Very struck by the resemblance between this winter incident and Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet? She must have only read one book, that's impossible. The Twin Towers, September 11th.
Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, the storming of the Bastille?
Romeo and Juliet.
I knew it.
That is to say, it's a brawl with two women.
Romeo and Juliet from the Montague and Capulet families?
Even the journalist, she goes off. A bouillabaisse?
Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet? We're stuck here.
It started as harmless fun, a bit provocative, but now it's become serious. Fights break out, and as always, we draw our swords.
This level of disconnection from reality, she should have become a lawyer by using more varied analogies. Marzan rape case. 51 men are on trial for raping an unconscious woman, drugged by her husband. The defense?
So I was struck by the resemblance between this news story and Jesus. You know, during the Last Supper when he breaks the bread and shares it with the other apostles, except here he shared his wife, right?
The Salah Abdeslam case for the November 2015 attacks the defense?
So I was struck by the resemblance between this news story and La Casa de Papel. Yeah, it started as just a fun little thing. Sadly, some robbers end up dying.
They blew themselves up, and it wasn't a robbery but a terrorist attack.
Oh yes, of course, there are 2 or 3 differences, you know. They weren't wearing Dali masks. But on the other hand, I think Abdeslam is a capital, right? Yes? No? Anyway.
Alright, let's get back to our rodeo.
Sometimes it has bad results, and so that's clear. But deciding to put someone in prison or to be extremely repressive...
Isn't repression meant to prevent bad consequences?
Sometimes it has terrible consequences, but that doesn't mean you must act, right? Yes? No? Anyway.
There aren't many ways to avoid the terrible consequences. Education and prevention beforehand, and then enforcement to prevent repeat offenses and copycat behavior. which is ultimately also a form of prevention.
And yes, overall, we often repeat what we've seen others do, right? We're not inventing anything. But I was really bored until I developed this ranking of spikes that I submitted to the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique.
So obviously prevention is always better, but once the terrible consequences have happened, we add repression to it.
Otherwise, we encourage repeat offenses.
Choosing to imprison or harshly repress these young people who in 2 years will marry, find jobs, and become citizens like us.
Why is she even at the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique? She's not saying anything factual. Some might get married and find jobs in 2 years, but that's not certain. Not completely.
Well, look at the rapper Koba LAD car accident because he was high. Hit and run in 2020. He only got a suspended sentence, but he still got back on the right track. No more drugs dating Wade Ine. Bad example. He drinks, drives, crashes into a stopped truck at 200 km/h under tetrahydrocannabinol and killed a passenger. Hardly a role model for youth.
Just as they might not all harm, kill, or become criminals. Some of them might settle down as well after facing repression.
Or because a friend ended up in prison. Without any repression?
Some might realize on their own that what they're doing is dangerous and wrong without any trouble. But how many will find it through hardship? Did they hurt themselves or someone else?
Miss Veyrat Masson?
Huh? About what? Huh?
Injured someone madam will notice.
We're still dealing with a woman who demanded harsh punishment for not wearing a mask. But now, no. No, now, they're bored.
And in the end, they're citizens just like you and me. It's a bit like tagging.
Another lousy analogy.
I had a friend who was very, very, very chic and classy, whose son used to do tagging, and it was dangerous. Because in the end, for him, I think he already is.
But the level of expression. Let me remind you, she's still a research director in communications.
I think he already is.
I guess she still hasn't found it yet.
And back then, he was a good boy. Now he's married, he has children, he has a very good job.
Who says his mother didn't set him straight? Maybe through education, prevention, or discipline.
She wanted to disinherit me and make me work.
Why turn a specific unrelated case into a general truth with this level of analysis?
Deciding on the repression of these kinds of activities that are dangerous, I'm not saying otherwise. We can see it.
How she can get out, that's dangerous. She says it herself, so something needs to be done. She would even suggest something else. No, I believe her research should still focus on learning communication.
But which in the end are put in place or used, well, put into...
Her mind seems really messy.
Hi, I'm her brain and this is my idea box. It's handy, but once I start talking, I lose track of what I need. What should I say? Help me!
These are people who aren't criminals to begin with.
No one is born a criminal. People become criminals. For example, a high school student who commits a mass shooting in the United States may have had no prior offenses. What do we do with him?
It was meant to be small, fun, maybe a bit provocative, but we always escalate things, right? Still, prison or repression for him seems extreme. He wasn't a delinquent to begin with.
It's exaggerated, but petty crime often leads to bigger crimes. If there's no education, prevention, or punishment from the very first offenses,
prison can sometimes cause more serious crime.
Yes, but that's a separate issue. That's why it should be a last resort, but the rest can't be done halfway.
Not delinquents at first. Even if they are, they might not know it's forbidden.
Well, now we know. She's totally stupid.
They might not even know it's forbidden, I imagine, for some of them. But anyway, right? Well, anyway.
She doesn't even know. She's just guessing and saying something dumb. Come on.
You wondered if it wasn't them or their fault. But the motorcycles, maybe they're even conscious. Right? No? Anyway. Well, we may need to reconsider the defense. Bill Sachs, Breeden, let's take a break.
She thinks these kids are idiots. They must know. And it's the rule breaking that motivates them. We've all experienced it. Defying the forbidden. With more or less safeguards and morality.
Oh, I'm not supposed to pee on the Transformer? We'll see about that. It's the cauliflower dick. By the time he reaches the cemetery. Unfortunately for him, too young, he'll never have stuff to gratin. Maybe the epitaph?
Besides, if they're running from the police, it's because they know they're in the wrong. That's why most accidents are caused by the police.
CNRS, S, man.
Even when they're not there, like that intergalactic level cokehead bitch explained.
Accidents often happen because cops chase riders, actually pushing them toward death.
Three groups are responsible for this crime: the offenders, the elders who influenced them, and those who excuse their actions. When terrible consequences happen beyond the victims, only the first group is sometimes punished. And as these two activists protest, maybe that's not right. If the other two groups also paid the price, we might eventually need less repression.
Wait, are you saying we should gag those two big bitches? But I have tape in the Kango.
No, freedom of speech. Even if maybe it's not the best solution to give them such a big platform. One thing is clear: whenever an accident occurs, at the very least we should mention it to them. Their share of responsibility.
Yeah, like when a young guy crashes his motorcycle doing a wheelie without a helmet going the wrong way. He must blame himself, but he can also thank his role models for inspiring him, and his brother for giving him the bike and teaching him.
To reduce prison and repression, we should work together to promote prevention and education. But those who condone and make excuses for those who break the law ruin in just a few moments with media coverage all the work that was done beforehand. In the end, do they unconsciously perhaps end up watering the fertile ground for prison and repression that they criticize so much? Let's go. What's the point? It's never just been about math. Oh, Gabriel Attal.
He's here.
I am Utrecht, son of Utrecht. If you want another paradox, type on the keyboard. If you want another paradox, type on the keyboard. Thank you for the enthusiastic excitement surrounding the release of the latest episodes, and as always, thank you to everyone who comments, likes, and shares. And those who tip. See you very soon.